everyone. You are listening to the Be Your Own Makeup Artist podcast. I'm Natalie Satere, your host and makeup artist here, and I am so excited to be bringing this amazing episode that the world needs right now. And I invited a guest, Jennifer Norman, founder of the Human Beauty movement and conscious CBD skincare line, Humanist Beauty. Jennifer is an award-winning author and a regular contributor at Thrive Media and Medium. She's an entrepreneur, a B Corp business leader, and a member of the Female Founder Collective, which is where we met. And after spending 20 years in the beauty industry, Jennifer has realized that beauty really does come from within. She's inspired to share her life lessons with others through her international organization, the Humanist Movement, and her new skincare line, Humanist Beauty, so that we may all grow in self-acceptance, self-love, and self-care, knowing that we all embody beauty. And I can't wait to just dive into the questions I have for her, hear more of her story, and welcome Jennifer to the show. Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're so welcome, and thank you for sharing your birthday with us. It is your birthday.
It is my birthday.
Happy birthday. So, Jennifer, I have to say, one of the reasons why I looked at your website the first second, and I knew you were a perfect guest for the show because you are all about inclusivity in beauty and self-love and self-acceptance. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But you have in your resume and in your whole biography, you have 20 years experience in the beauty industry. You've seen how it goes. It's a business. And so I would love for you to kind of give the listeners a Reader's Digest version of your story, how you spent your career in an industry that can be so superficial and came at the end of it realizing, wait a second, I can do something bigger and better than myself.
Natalie, what a wonderful introduction, and thank you. I am so honored, and I would be more than happy to share with your listeners my experience and how it really culminated into where I am today. My first experience was working for L'Oreal in cosmetics. I actually started working on nail enamel, and then I worked on lip color, and then I worked on shadows and liners, and then went into hair color, where I helped with the launch of Feria hair color, which is still around today. Crazy, since it's actually a 20-year-old brand. But the interesting thing is that I was attracted to the beauty industry for a number of reasons. Number one, I was kind of a self-professed artist at the time, and so I just enjoyed the idea of creativity, and I enjoyed playing with color on canvas or on paper, and then it gravitated towards wardrobe, and then it gravitated towards makeup and cosmetics. And so there was just an inherent love for the artistry behind what makeup really could do for a person. But then, to be honest with you, I got caught up in the glamour of the whole thing. And to your point earlier about, yes, beauty can certainly be superficial. I think at the time that I had started and kind of developed in my career, working in marketing and kind of escalating up through product management and brand management for a number of different beauty companies, there was this inherent feeling that it was supporting your self-esteem, that perhaps you weren't feeling as good about yourself, or really feeling like you weren't as beautiful or as attractive as other people if you didn't have your makeup on, or if you didn't have your hair done, or if you didn't look a certain way. And also there was an aspect of fitting in. I feel like sometimes if you're wearing the latest styles, if you have the coolest brands, if you're wearing the right lipstick color, or the shade of the season, if you will, there was sort of a cliquish mentality towards that and beauty as well. And so there were some positive aspects of why I started in cosmetics, but then I only upon self-reflection in later years realized that I think that I had really it had sunk its teeth into me because I myself had not found myself. I really did not have a good, strong sense of who I was or how I fit into the world. And so I think that I was looking externally for a lot of cues in order to try to define my role as a woman, as somebody that was, in the beauty industry. And so I think that for a lot of people, perhaps like myself in the past, had really felt like they almost relied on makeup, and they became a little bit obsessed with makeup and wouldn't walk out of the house without their makeup on or their brows done or, their hair done, because they were afraid of people seeing them for how they really looked. It's so nice nowadays to see how that has been changing, and people are not afraid anymore. And it happened over time, but boy, once it did, the cascade of true creators and people, and the idea of self-empowerment and the idea of makeup as play has become much more forthcoming. There's still a bit of work to do in terms of people's relationship with cosmetics and makeup and beauty in general, but it's nice to see that some walls are breaking down, and there is this greater sense of self-acceptance versus when I started in the industry back then.
That's so refreshing and promising. I always tell my clients, and I tell anybody who wants to learn, I'm like, you need to know how to confidently wear makeup, but also confidently not wear makeup, right?
Correct.
It's not, you need to make that confident decision. When you slip on a black dress, you're going to feel a certain way, and you can make that decision consciously, that nobody's making it for you. And it's the same with beauty products. And I think sometimes people overthink. They're like, it has a strong hold on them. And
Yes.
they don't think, wait a second, I'm in control here. I decide what I want to do and how I want to look today.
Yeah.
So it is awesome that I would say I see a lot of young people making those decisions more confidently. But I also think, on the same hand, I see a lot of young people falling victim to the beauty industry and all of the marketing and everything. So that's actually a perfect segue into the next question that I have for you is, you've had so much experience with beauty brands and companies. Is there anything that you want to share that is maybe juicy about how they work? I know I have a section in my book actually that talks about the large brand families, L'Oreal and Estee Lauder, and how they always eat up the little indie brands. And when people find out about this, a lot of people don't know, but then they find out, they feel like they've been cheated on or something. And I think a lot of people are starting to become more and more jaded about what they buy, which is one of the reasons I want to hear more about your line. How can we be smarter and more conscious consumers when it's just always changing? Do you have any insight or advice on that?
It's a very interesting thing that you bring up. And so to the first part of your question about bigger companies, a lot of times what will happen is so much investment goes into making a new product that they try to gain economies of scale with their investment. And so if they come out with a magnificent mascara, let's just use that as an example, companies will typically parlay that formula over to a number of different brands. And so you'll see the same formula on L'Oreal as Maybelline, as Lancome, for example, and Estee Lauder does the same thing. And that would be considered good business, because your positioning, your brand is essentially what is supposed to create that differentiation. So what does your packaging look like? What does the brand stand for? How are you going to market it? And so it doesn't matter what, the actual formula is. It's just the look and the perception of what you're buying. And then therefore there is a perception of quality. So you might buy the same mascara formula for $5 from Maybelline or for $20 from Lancome. And a lot of it is in what goes around it. So, whether or not you're buying it on like a cardboard, piece of, a packaging from Maybelline, or if you are actually getting it from counter service, or somebody actually helping you where there's high overheads on a Lancome counter. Hi, sweetheart. That's quite all right. This is life during quarantine. I love it.
It's March 12th. I've been home with the kids. Okay.
And you still look amazing.
But yeah.
And so, thinking about, larger brands, and then, obviously more recently, there has been a lot of questioning about ColourPop versus Kylie Cosmetics and the shades. And absolutely, they're going to use the same exact shades across the board. It's considered good business, and just let the brand carry it. But people are very smart, women are not, everything is about transparency nowadays. And so a lot of those tactics are not really flying very well, shall we say, lately.
Right.
The other interesting thing is that there is so much made in China. There's so much made, in quality and in places and with operations that are questionable, I have to say. And I'm not speaking about L'Oreal. I'm not speaking about any brand in particular. I don't want to name names at all, but it's just pervasive within the beauty industry that there is this churn. And up until recently, it's always been like this mad feast of, what is the next shade collection going to be? What's the next promotion going to be? What are we going to do for holiday? And it is one thing that I have really strongly considered as I'm coming into my own business is, what is all of this doing to our psyche and our wellness, as far as feeling like I gotta have this, I gotta have that, I can't have enough. And then you end up with a bathroom with bins full of cosmetics and all this stuff that you may have used once or perhaps haven't used at all. And then it just ends up sitting there, and you've purchased this, and you're feeding into an economy where there's so much churn, there's so much production, and so much waste.
Yeah.
And so perhaps now we can start kind of sitting back, and, as we're in quarantine, this does give us a little bit of respite and a little bit of time to think about our purchasing behavior. What has influenced us in the past? What's really important? What is it that you really need? And what is it that's really going to bring you joy? Because those are important. It's always important to have that sense of play and that sense of excitement and that sense of fun. But when it gets to be that you're almost hoarding, or that you're becoming obsessed, and that you're just buying things for the sake of buying things, then we have to kind of take a step back and say, is this really healthy? Do I really need this? Can I live with less?
Right.
And so, so to that degree of being comfortable enough with yourself just to know when where your limits are, the fact that the beauty industry is not going to make anybody whole. They're not going to make you a better person. Only you can do that. It really comes from inside. And so if you think about all of the wonderful things that, the beauty industry and that products can bring, it's really all about that sense of fun and that sense of pleasure that we all seek and that we all grow to love. But then once it starts to stress you out. There are some friends that I have that like literally will take like a good hour and a half, 2 hours just to get ready to go out. And boy, I just wonder, like, look at all the time that is, of life, unless they really truly get pleasure. And I don't want to judge, from the outside, but sometimes it just seems like almost a little bit of like, I feel like I will be judged if I show up not looking a certain way because I have an influencer and I have a presence to uphold and I need to be out and look like this. And so, yeah, almost having that little slave mentality, if it were.
It's so true. I think that our time is our most valuable asset, more valuable than money, I'd say. I feel like you probably share the same feeling. Our time, we don't get that back. We can always get money back. We can earn money. We can find ways about money. But when it comes to our time, and when you think about how much time we stress on our appearance and stress about getting ready. And so there's a time and a place to get ready and enjoy that self-care time. But then you have the pressures from the beauty industry completely just saying, no, you need to look this way. You need to do this. I have clients who come to me and they're like, but what about concealer? And I'm like, well, you don't really need it. Your foundation actually did a great job. You don't need that. But what about contouring? I'm like, look, you don't need that either. You can just, put on a little blush mascara, call it a day. You have gorgeous, features. And they're like, what? And I'm like, you don't need it. If you want to do that, there's always ways to do that. But I think there's this constant, like, but I need to do this. Everybody else does this. I see this on TV. Mm-hmm. And so,
yeah, I have a 22-year-old stepdaughter, and I remember when she was in college and all of her friends started buying contour kits, and she just felt like a complete, like, she felt so lost because she's like, I don't know how to use this. And I've always been the kind of step parent that never wants to like say, I'm the beauty expert here, this is how you do it.
Right.
I always want her to be able to find her own way and to be able to, kind of learn and see what works for her. I would never want her to follow in my footsteps. I think, people blaze their own paths, but yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah. I feel like we could totally,
let it.
Right. I think we could have an episode just about the contouring marketing. Like what contouring is and how it became like this massive thing that really is. Anyways, I feel like that.
I did a funny TikTok on contouring, believe it or not. I'm one of those
You're
crazy,
on TikTok.
I'm one of those crazy 50-year-olds that, yes, does TikToks. It's ridiculous. Yes. But it was about contouring. It's like, I don't know if contouring is supposed to go on before your makeup or after your makeup, but it doesn't matter. You just need to eliminate the nose. Pretend you have no nostrils.
I'm going to have to, oh my God, you'll have to share with us your TikTok because I did get on TikTok.
I don't have very many followers, but I figure, I feel that it is important to know about all of the social media aspects and all of the different channels and actually do it so that you kind of have a little bit of knowledge of what's going on. So, boy, some of those TikToks take a really long time to do, talking about time being precious. I was like, people are doing these all day long, like,
and they're so good. You're like,
they're good, but I'm like, what are you getting for it? Likes? Is that why you're doing all, like, you're spending so much time to see if you can get likes? I mean,
I know.
That's another episode as well.
Right. Oh, I can, yes. This year has been a good year for me to like quit worrying about the kind of stuff that doesn't matter. But so now I really want to dive in because you have this amazing experience with the beauty industry. You know what it's like, how the marketing works. And you started this amazing, you told me before we went live, you told me that inclusivity was really important to you from a young age and that you actually got started writing about inclusivity in children's books. Mm-hmm. And I would love for you to talk about kind of your, like the children's book and inclusivity, but also how did this translate into your movement that you're starting and also your skincare line?
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yes, I will say, I think that this has been my calling from a very early age. There's just been like different, stepping stones that have led me on this path on my journey. And I think that the first one is that I was actually adopted by a Caucasian family. And so instantly I felt like an outsider. Even though, they treated me as their own, but just living in a very white bread town on Long Island where there really weren't very many ethnic, there wasn't much ethnic variety at all. I felt different. I just grew up feeling left out or feeling like teased when I was a young child. And so I think early on that, it sticks with you. You kind of feel like, gosh, that didn't feel so good when people like judge you or call you names or make you feel like you're not part of the club if you were. And so, yeah, I think all, kind of, going through and then finally finding kind of a place in the beauty industry where I felt like I belonged, but perhaps, started to kind of examine it for what it was and feeling like, ooh, that just doesn't seem right. When you have, upper management saying, K-beauty is coming to fold, and, Koreans are wearing 14, they don't walk out of the house without 14 products, trying on 14 products on their skin. How can we get more Americans to buy 14 products before they leave the home? And so I think things like that just became unsettling. Like we were trying to force this kind of mad consumption. And so it really started to kind of break down little by little for me in the beauty industry, just seeing where things made me take pause, and then, wow, if I were to do this, I would do things a little bit differently. And so I think as I was kind of journeying through the beauty industry, I kind of started thinking, well, gosh, all of that, packaging was very wasteful. All those microbeads going down into into the water stream, that was not a good idea. What can we do to be more mindful in general about what we're offering and how we're impacting people? And then I will say that the big moment was when I gave birth to my first and only child, who came down with a very, very serious genetic disorder, and has really rendered him in a state where he needs to rely on others for total care. And so seeing what life was like with him, when he was earlier on, he had more abilities, and he's kind of gradually lost them over time. But when he was young, we'd go to the playground, and he had a tracheostomy, and he had an NG tube, which is a feeding tube that would go through his nose, and it's taped to his face. And kids would just either run away, or they'd whisper like little children to their parents, and the parents were like, "It's not nice to stare. Just don't say anything." And so seeing what that did to my son, and he would all of a sudden start like doing this because he didn't want people to see him, and he felt like almost a little bit embarrassed or afraid or scared, or feeling like he was being victimized. And here's a 3 or 4-year-old boy doing this.
Yeah.
And as his parent, you can imagine what that makes a parent feel like as well.
Right.
Like, you always want your children to be accepted. And so the nice thing about his journey is that he has brought so much understanding and so much compassion and so many good-hearted people into our lives that have really shown us the way forward. And so as a culmination of our experience with my child, we decided to write these children's books called The Adventures of Super Captain Brave Man. I know that this is not what this podcast is about, but
no, I love it.
But essentially these were children's books that would help teach other young kids at an early age, what other kids with disabilities, what life is like, and do it in a nice, friendly way. And then, give tips of, how you can be friends with these children. What are the symptoms or the signs? And so we started to pen a series. The second book was on autism, signs and symptoms of autism, and how to be friends with somebody with autism. Our most recent book was on a child with Down syndrome. And so things like that we thought were just really important, because if you teach kids young, they're so receptive. They ask so many questions, and then it becomes normal. It's like the new normal. It doesn't become a stigma. It doesn't become this, strange, awkward moment at the park or in the mall, as I've heard from other special needs parents that, when they're out with their children, it's hard. It's very hard. And so whatever we can do to really help normalize and create just this abundant quilt of abilities and of understanding and of compassion for others, it's intended to make the world a better place. And so in coming across the opportunity to really, the timing was right. I said, you know what, I really think it's time that I started my own beauty company, but it's going to be the Unbeauty company. I really wanted to do unmarketing and really allow people to understand that they are beautiful as they are whole as they are wonderful and majestic and extraordinary as they are. And whatever products or whatever things that we may be able to offer them, the intention is to fill their lives with joy and beauty, so that they can manifest their beauty as they wish to. And so I think that's why I decided to start with skincare, because I do feel like in the beauty industry, skincare, because it does, it's so important. And I'm a very big naturalist now, as in terms of, plant potency, and the first products that I'm putting out are CBD and adaptogenic and Leaping Bunny cruelty free. I believe that the intent behind what you're putting forth into the universe is so important. It's almost more important than the product. I feel like the product just is a vehicle for that intention and that message. And so if the intention of a beauty product is we want your money and we want to grow and we want to, you know, do away with that competitor and we want to defeat that, that intention starts to come through and it seeps into the psyche of the people who use it, of the people that hear that message.
Mm-hmm.
I want to change things and turn things on their head. And I think a lot of other B corporations that are businesses as force for good are in a similar place where they are utilizing their businesses to truly help sustain and support people, their wellness, and the planet. And so, yeah, and like I said, just, you know, doing things for me, it's about radical inclusion. With my products that are, my website's launching today. If you go on there, you'll see that I even have, you know, a disability, ADA accessibility feature to make sure that anybody that goes on there will be able to use the website and be able to appreciate and enjoy the content that's there. And I'm also selling Braille tags, which are these little rings, which tell people what the product is that they're using, so that, you know, for those that are visually impaired,
That's
they'll be able
amazing.
to have that and be able to put that on their products.
So wait, I gotta interrupt really quickly because not everybody can see what you just showed me.
Oh, sorry, that's true. I should actually explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, you want to, so what she just showed me is something I've never seen. What is it called again?
Yeah, with my products, I thought that it was important to make sure that inclusivity was the first and foremost reason for being. And as such, I wanted to make sure that everything was complying by the ADA, so the website is accessible and is able to be spoken aloud, or, you know, have special tabs where anybody who might be using assistive technology will be able to use the website. And then for the products that I'm launching, every product that I'm launching is going to have offered with it what I'm calling a Braille ID Band. And so it's actually a compostable, recyclable, 3D printed ring that you can essentially snap around the product that you're using, and it has English Braille on it, so that people can actually know what the product is that they're using if they are visually impaired or blind.
That is so amazing. That is, I have like goosebumps because it's not just talking the talk, which I think a lot of companies do. It's walking the walk. I know that, I mean, I don't want to, this isn't about me, but I, as a makeup artist and an author, remember how much pushback I would get because I didn't want to say ladies, or in my book include just pictures of Caucasian women. I mean, I made sure not to include images in my book. I mean, there are some to show visuals, but I tried to make them as diverse as possible, not to put a cover photo of any person on the cover because people identify with those things. But the fact that you have gone so far as to not only look at the inclusivity from, I'm sure, a skin type and spectrum, but also the physical disabilities that we don't think about. I mean, that's amazing. That's really inspiring.
And I felt that was important to reinforce the intention behind the brand, because, as you know, and I was saying, I am the unmarketer because I've been, you know, been one to have done this in the past, where it's almost like tokenism. It's like, okay, let's show shade range. We need a Caucasian woman. We need blondes. We need somebody with a little bit that looks Latin. We need somebody that, and it gets into your model choices. And it's just to say, okay, yay, we're represented.
Yay.
Yeah, we did it. Hooray. Look at us. We're so good. And yeah, unless you really back it up, even working in cosmetics, boy, and it was completely justifiable again for financial reasons why there were not dark shades, because they didn't sell. And so if you can't justify your shelf space for those shades, then they're going to be discontinued. And so as much as you try, the economics would never allow you, because we were so focused on the financials. The whole business, the whole industry is focused on, you know, what is your productivity per square foot in your planogram. And so, yeah, and it became extremely difficult. It's so refreshing to see that, you know, how things have changed lately.
Yeah.
It really is. And that I think that millennials, God bless millennials, because they're really taking a stand and saying, you know what, this ain't good anymore. We're going to change things.
Yeah.
And we're going to buy and vote with our dollars in terms of those other those brands that do carry our values and are going to hold our, you know, our opinions and our feelings true, versus just trying to, you know, think about the bottom line.
Yes, I swear you had to have been a fly on the wall in a conversation I've had about millennials, because I guess I'm a really, really old millennial. I'm like on the far end.
Okay.
And everybody complains about, I don't identify as a millennial, but I'm technically one. And everybody is always bashing on them. And I'm like, no, they're going to change the world. They're going to make it better. And then the generation after, I believe that. So that's optimism right there. There's so much doom and gloom in the world, so much negativity. And yeah, there are things that we do need to worry about. There are things in the world that require, you know, our attention that aren't really fun to talk about. But there is so much reason to be optimistic and hopeful. So I could talk to you for hours. I swear.
I swear. Episodes together, I think.
I know. We'll have to. We'll figure something out, because there's no doubt that the universe was like, yeah, these two people need to talk.
I completely agree. Things don't happen by mistake ever.
So I want to ask the last question. I just want you to brag about your skincare line. I want you to tell us all about what makes it special. I mean, aside from the packaging, which I'm going to tell you, I look at the packaging and I look at, you know, where is it being manufactured? I look at those things and I don't necessarily judge them. I always like to see, is there thought in it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's hard to, you know, get glasses made. You're going to eventually have to find somebody to make these glasses for you. And unless you're paying somebody to hand blow glasses, you're probably going to have to order, you know, the actual package. I don't care about that. I care that somebody has thought about that, you know, who has said, you know, we've chosen glass, or we've chosen to use recycled plastic, or we've chosen to do XYZ, or to work with local farmers and to work with ingredients that are, you know, when you go to a farm to table restaurant, right, you feel good because you're like, I'm supporting the local farmers and I'm supporting that. So I get a lot of these vibes with your brand. That I read somewhere on there that it's like pesticide free farms that, you know, you don't think about when you're talking about cosmetics. You think more about that when you're eating your organic strawberries or something. So can you share a little bit about your brand and maybe your favorite product, or the one that you couldn't wait to launch? And
Absolutely. I'm delighted that you will be the first to kind of get the full lowdown of my brand. The brand is called Humanist Beauty. And the notion behind Humanist Beauty is that all skins are welcome. It's conscious beauty, and it's intended to be wellness for all. And when it comes to claims, certainly there are only certain claims that can be made with cosmetics or skincare products. The products are extraordinary, and they do incredible things that I will legally not be able to talk about. But aside from that, the intention behind the Humanist Beauty line was really all about being able to bring integrative wellness and care to more people. And what does integrative care mean? It really means mind, body, soul connection. And so, as we were kind of mentioning and talking about before, when you look good, you feel good. And so there is this kind of feedback loop that you receive when, you know, you see yourself in the mirror, you feel good about yourself, and then, you know, on the opposite, on the contrary, if you look at yourself and you're like, oh, I look like not great today, then it may impact your mood. And so starting from within, helping people to develop a ritual for themselves about their own beauty from within, about their purpose and their intention and the love that they have to offer, the kindness that they can offer the world, is really what this is about. It's like starting from within with the soul, with mantras and meditation, and really taking a cue from spirituality. The the whole brand and all of the products, everything that's physical about these products was made with very high mindfulness. And so every single ingredient was handpicked. The source was handpicked, whether it was organic or whether it was wild crafted or whether it was a fermented Korean oil, which is going to help accelerate antioxidant activity. The amount of CBD that is in the first product, which is the Urban Wisdom facial oil, which right now is my favorite, 500 milligrams of full spectrum whole hemp CBD plus adaptogens. Now, the reason behind the full spectrum whole hemp is because it has a greater chance of being able to offer what's called the entourage effect. And so it's the idea that all of the different cannabinoids and the terpenes and all of the wonderful whole plant goodness of a hemp plant or of a cannabis plant is going to be extracted and put into this formula. Now, CBD by itself has a whole range of benefits. I can talk about CBD benefits unto itself, not necessarily as part of the formula for legal reasons, but CBD is known as kind of an adaptogen unto itself because it is able to provide homeostasis or balance within the body. And so what happens is that your whole body has endocannabinoid receptors, and there are an abundant amount of endocannabinoid receptors in the skin. And so your skin is almost intended to receive cannabinoids, and the cannabinoids are going to help adjust and create this sense of balance. And so you kind of hear about people taking CBD for stress relief or for anxiety or for seizures and things like that. And that's because it has this extraordinary ability to bring the body back into stability. And so there have been a lot of studies on CBD and its impact on things like eczema or rosacea or inflammatory conditions like those, as well as acne. And so again, I can't claim that my formula can help, but know that you've got 500 milligrams of CBD in my formulas, and then you can kind of jump to your own conclusions. And so aside from that, there are extraordinary ingredients like rosehip, argan, jojoba, sea buckthorn, tamanu, pomegranate, cherry. I mean, it goes on and on. There's probably about 25 different extraordinary extracts that are either wild-crafted, organic, or of course, all of them are naturally derived. The whole formula is 100% vegan. There's also an aromatherapy benefit, which is helpful as you're kind of meditating and going through your ritual, which has frankincense and blue tansy in it. And so the formula, if you can't tell, I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so excited about it because I think
I
that
want to use it right now.
Truly
I'm like,
extraordinary.
I need
Yes,
it right now.
Can't wait to send you a sample. It is truly extraordinary, and I've even had it used by some of the top alchemists in this area, and they are singing its praises. And so, and just to see the beautiful glow, it's not heavy, it's not greasy. It sinks into your skin, and it just provides this instant beautiful glow to the skin, and then it's going to be, helping your skin improve in its look and feel over time. And then also, not only with the formula itself, the packaging, and being mindful about how it's packaged became so important to me. And so I'm using glass, aluminum, a little bit of plastic. I'm trying to avoid using plastic as much as possible, and I'm hoping to become plastic free as technology and offerings are available to me. That's the bane of the beauty.
It's
the beauty
really
of the
hard.
There's just so much reliance on plastic.
Yeah.
But as far as the outer packages, they're 100% recyclable corrugate printed with soy ink. They're round. I'll show you. I know your viewers can't see this, but I did them in these round containers because you can ship them in an envelope and they won't crush. I won't need to use any extra filler.
Nice.
No puffy beads or no peanuts. No extra wasteful shipping materials, because there's so much packaging waste that goes into shipping materials. So just like trying to think about the shipping footprint and the fact that so much greenhouse gas goes into shipping.
Yep, especially right now, everybody's online shopping.
Everybody's buying online, which is very interesting. And yeah, and to offset all of the, the shipping greenhouse gases, I am carbon neutral. I have dedicated some of my finances already to reforestry, to make sure that, trees are being planted to compensate and overcompensate actually for the shipping gases that are being emitted.
I am so excited to be able to recommend to anybody, because it's just, it is literally the beauty industry. There's new launches every second. I swear there's a new palette and a new this and a new that. And it's, I know as a makeup artist, and having worked in the beauty industry, how it works. It's just boom, boom, boom. Like there's not that thoughtfulness that goes in. It's just kind of copy, paste, change the packaging.
Yeah. And I had done it in the past, and I almost think about this as my apology or as my compensation for sins of the past, because certainly you're right there. I know all the tricks. I know I've done it all myself before, and I just there came a point where I said no more. This is making the world, it's making women unwell. It's helping them as far as helping create empowered women who really feel good about themselves deep down inside. And so, I think that it's important to try to get this message out through podcasts such as yours, which is an amazing podcast, and so that people can really understand the truth and the integrity behind the brand, so that they do see me, they see that this is real, this is really not, it's not to try to pull any wool over anybody's eyes. It's really, this is who I am, this is what my message, my journey, and where I kind of came to where I am, to try to offer you the best that I think I can, and that I'm hopeful will also catch on, and hopefully people will continue to buy great products from brands that are like-minded.
Well, that's amazing. And I really hope, I have a feeling that you are going to be setting the standard for lots of other brands that are coming along, because you've set such high standards that I really hope. And that's leadership, when you create something that others are like, oh my gosh, how can I be more like that? And that's what we need more of, are people who are so thoughtful and intentional. And I'm just so excited to, first of all, get my hands on this, because but also not just because it's a product, because it's self-care, it's the intention, it's being a, like you said, you buy and you vote with our dollars. We have those choices every single day with everything that we buy, everything that we consume, we choose. And so I think this is amazing.